like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We're living like this could be our final day. We're dreamers. Don't care what the others say. We're doing this in our way. We come alive in the nighttime. It's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in
Alrighty. Hello. Cool beans. So, trying a couple new things. Did a little green screen thing, so kind of clipped out a little bit, so that's kind of cool. Gotta go zero that in a little bit. So today I wanted to go and play with something a little bit different than I've been doing. I wanted to do kind of an edgy portrait, I guess. And happenstance, one of my last shoots with my lovely wife. This is Danny, by the way. She'll actually be streaming here soon, and I'll start introducing her on her channel. But nevertheless, she models for me quite a lot and helps me kind of do my thing. Anyway, so this is a moody kind of portrait of her. It's not about flattery. It's not about anything. It's about, I don't know how I say this. I don't know. It's just edgy. I like it. So I'm going to play with it because most of my stuff that I've been doing since I started in August has been almost like fine art portraiture, I don't know, glamour, beauty, stuff like that. And I want to start pushing it in different directions or whatever because I'm becoming more competent with not only my shooting ability, but also my retouch. So anyway, so this is capture one. I'm going to color grade and all that good stuff. And then I'm going to take it into Photoshop and see what we come up with. Let's see. I want to make sure I have some music going on for you. And we do. Cool. And all that good stuff. Cool beans. All right. So I don't have a whole lot of time today. I had to work like my day job is restaurants. I used to be a chef, and now I'm kind of I don't know, just a restaurant manager. Just something easy peasy, pays the bills, all that good stuff. But it lets me kind of pursue my passion, so it's footing the bill currently. So I don't have a whole lot of time tonight, and that's why I picked this portrait. It's not a full body. There's not a lot of skin to work on. So I might actually be able to finish this completely tonight. And I might actually be able to do that with one, maybe two shots of tequila on board. So we'll see how it goes. So the way I figure it is, if you can have a shot of tequila and you can still render a good image, you know your fundamentals a little bit. So, all right, cool. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, you want to reach out, just hit the comments and I will go from there. All right, so this is capture one. I always tether to capture one when I'm in studio. Currently, that's the only way that I shoot. I don't really do on-site or outdoors or anything like that. In that, I want to really practice working with models. I want to practice my lighting, and I want to practice retouch. And so it's kind of that KISS acronym of keep it simple, stupid. So that's what I intend to do, is keep it simple. So I'm going to zoom kind of way in real quick. I'm going to bring her down. I'm going to look at her eyes and her the texture on her skin. And I'm going to play with the contrast real quick. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to clone the variant. So basically that's going to give me a duplicate so that I can have a before and after. So I'm going to take the contrast down a little bit. Usually I do about negative 15 to negative 10, depending. If I'm working with a male model, that just kind of depends. It depends on what their skin type is. It depends on what the look is. Males are a little bit different than females, and that's sometimes. So when I do contrast, I want to make sure that I'm not losing details. So it's going to basically go and give me softer light to shadow contrast. But I want to make sure that I'm not actually losing any kind of detail. So I'm going to go right on that kind of spot on of, what is it, negative 15. So when I go to, let's see if you could see this on your screen. So this little triangle right here, what this does is it gives me a warning if I have any blowouts at all. So it's where I shot too hot and it's too exposed. And what that does is it basically shows up as pure white. If it's pure white, I have no color information and no texture information, and that's a problem. So I always want to make sure when I'm shooting, but also when I'm editing, just as a fail-safe, that I'm not running too hot. If that was the case, what I would do is go to high dynamic range, and I would go and play with the highlights and the shadows and try to bring back some of that value. So real quick, after the contrast, I'm going to see if there's a feel that I like. I'm actually going to bring up the highlights quite a bit. And I'm going to do that because I want as much color information as possible going into Photoshop. I'm going to leave the shadows alone because it's not necessary. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate over to color. And I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to play with probably white balance a little bit, and I'm going to play with color balance. So with color balance, I always do that before white balance. And white balance is, I'm not doing that actually to correct the image. I'm not worried about that. I'm not actually going to use the, what would you call that? The picker, color picker. I'm not going to use that at all. I'm not trying to correct anything. What I'm using or whatever it as is almost like a, what would you call that? A temperature slider to get a kind of feel as a base image to go retouch a little bit later. So I use Capture One as a raw processing software that I can tether to. And what I'm doing is I'm priming the image to take into Photoshop. Much like Photoshop's raw editor, if you natively import your image, you could go into kind of, I guess it'd be called Capture Raw. I haven't used that in a long time. But so this is like that on, I don't know, on steroids, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to warm her up a little bit. So that's going to be in the master, so it's going to affect everything, the lights, the midtones, and the shadows. And then I'm going to go into the shadows, figure out, usually or whatever, if I do cold shadows, I'll do warm highlights. If I do warm highlights, I'll do cold shadows. And then the midtones, if I do anything at all, will be somewhere in the middle. So what I'm doing is I'm using my eyes. There's no recipe for this. I'm seeing what I like. Every image is different. Every model is different. Skin tones are different. Backdrops are different. Environments are different. Lighting setups are different. So no recipe. You like what you like, and that's simple. So for anybody that's playing with this sort of thing, what I would encourage, if you were to ask me for advice, is to play, and play a lot. It's very important. I know this not on the basis of photography. I've just started photography. I started in August of this year. I know this based on, or I feel this way based on doing fine art, oil-based painting, and digital art. So 3D concept art, matte paintings, and things of the sort. That's kind of where I get that philosophy from, if you would call it a philosophy. So again, I'm just kind of figuring out, do I want them warm or do I want them cold? A lot of the way that I work is very close to medium gray, so I don't want to pull it out to super saturated colors by any shape or form. I just want to play. So with the shadows, I think I'm going to go a little bit warmer, but I'm not sure where. So I'm going to back. All right, so this is the global. So also in the comments, if the music that I'm listening to, I use Epidemic Sound, kind of subscription to make it so that I can play music without having any issues. It's just on a random playlist. I think it's like, what am I in right now? I don't even know. It's probably some kind of like beats or something like that. Some kind of like electronic beats or something. Anyway, yeah, if you have any kind of thing or whatever where there's a mood, you know, especially if you're going to be with me for a while and you just kind of want to play with that, just let me know and I'll try to change up the music a little bit. Either way is totally cool. So I think to me it's kind of ambient noise in that it's not the type of music that, and I think that's with the entire website that I would listen to if I was just creating by myself. You know, I would listen to lyrical things and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's about good. So basically the master is going to be a little bit warm towards the yellows, the shadows a little bit warm towards the oranges, midtones. A lot of times I leave the midtones alone, and I'm probably going to do the same. It tends to blow it out pretty quickly, so I'm going to leave that. And I was kind of right. So the idea of warm shadows, let's go into the cool aspect of the highlights. And I'm kind of digging this magenta. It's a little bit on the warmer side, but it's collected. It's coherent. I like our flesh tones. So if we go... So I feel that at a camera, it's good lighting, it's a good base, right? And then this gave me a whole lot more color to kind of work with. So I'm going to kind of go play with that. I'm going to go to the white balance real quick. And I'm going to play with the Kelvin real quick, the temperature of everything. And if you've watched any of my other live streams, you'll notice that everything that I do, every layer that I do is very subtle changes, and I just build them just like you would like an oil-based painting or something like that. You would have your base or you would have your underpainting, and then you would slowly build color upon it. Very non-destructive, very subtle. very rich later on. But at the same time, I'm still learning. So skin, especially when you're doing photography, is very complex. And so I try to honor that. All right, cool. So I'm kind of feeling that. So I think I'm gonna crank up the saturation a little bit, and then I'm gonna go back into the color editor. I'm gonna go into the shadows. I don't think I'm having a problem with the actual highlights, but I'm noticing that the shadows are a little bit on the yellow scale. So this actually might be in the master, so I'm gonna undo that. There we go. So I was right. It was in the master, not in the shadows. I think I'm gonna play right about there. Cool. All right. So I don't know where this image is gonna go. I really don't. But I'm excited to see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to right click on the actual image real quick to give a reference. This is out of camera. This is kind of what I tweaked it to, just as a base photo to do retouch with. And I'm going to go to right click it, edit with, and then Adobe Photoshop 2021. I always do TIFFs. I always do 16-bit. I always do Adobe RGB. And I always do for print resolution, even though it might be taxing on my computer, I would rather scale down than scale up. My personal opinion, but nevertheless, I like it. So I'm going to open that up. And as that loads into Photoshop, I'll do a transition for you. And we'll get to work. It'll be super fun. Cool. And we're in Photoshop. So my setup for my camera, all that good stuff, is set up for this interface. And the reason for that, with Capture One, I don't mind blocking some things because there's very small adjustments that I make in that program. Photoshop is definitely my workhorse. And anybody that's here because they actually want to learn something or, you know, I don't know, look at something in a different way. I want to make sure that what I'm doing it actually showcases correctly. I think in the future I'm going to go try to get one of those, what do you call it? It basically records your hotkeys and all that good stuff so that, you know, if I'm doing very quick movements and stuff like that, doing hotkeys, people can kind of see what's going on with that. So anyway, so portrait, here we go. Super fun. All right, we're in Photoshop. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this layer. I'm going to rename it. To me, naming conventions are important in my workflow, and they're important because I use a lot of actions in my workflow. So things that automate and make it so that I can work faster and not have to do monotonous tasks. And those actions obey naming conventions on your layers. So for instance, I'm about to go into frequency separation. and that obeys background copy, and not any other kind of naming convention. So I'm going to go to frequency separation. What that's going to do is it's going to separate my texture from my color. I'm going to let that process real quick. So I've heard, I don't know, pros and cons. Some people hate frequency separation. Some people love it. I love it. And I love it because texture is something that when I was doing more, traditional art, so traditional mediums like painting and things of the sort, textures are things that I would do, but I would do independent of themselves, and I would do them very methodically. I guess if like the best way to describe that. Textures and color. So color, value, all that good stuff. I want to think about those in a separate way that I want to think about texture. So this is a workflow that makes it so that I can be mindful of textures, fix them, alter them, etc. all I want. And I can go play with color, but I could do them independently of one another and think about them on their own layers, adjust them on their own layers. That's important to me. So very cool. All right, so with that, so I have frequency separation. That's all done. Going to... I'm actually going to do one thing real quick. Say, be right back. I'm actually still here. But the last time that I went to go do a save as, it took me to a file location, or brought my file locations up on the screen. And I don't mind sharing that stuff when I'm mindful of the locations that it's going to take me to. So let me do that real quick. So I'll go back to Photoshop, transition, and get you right back so you can see what I'm doing. But at the same time, I can go and keep my file locations and all that good stuff. Maybe to myself. Okay, there it is. All right, fun. So the biggest thing with this is not that files are a big deal or something like that, but sometimes with my catalogs, I'm shooting people. And it's not fair to them to be, I guess, broadcast or whatever, if you will, on a platform without my control. So basically, if anybody that I shoot with ends up on a stream, I do that within my control because it is their likeness and I respect that person. So anyway, all right, so I'm basically going to my file location so I could set up a new document, save as. If you're in any kind of software where you do hours of work and you trust technology, don't. Save your work, back up your work, and back up your backups. I have horror stories with that, but nevertheless, that's a story for another day. All right, cool. I'm actually really excited about this image. I don't know, it's not just simple. It's simple, but I like her facial expression. And I think if she had her facial expression and the way that her arms wrapped around, it's almost like a big, I don't know, yeah, it's kind of a big FU or something like that. Like it's salty almost, right? But the idea that she's popping her collar over here, I just like it because it's moody. She's got a mood to her. So it's super, super cool. Anyway, so that's saved. So I have my working file officially. And I'm going to do, if you Google search retouching toolkit, it's super cool. They have all sorts of videos of like how to use it. But basically what it does is it's a kind of a setup or whatever where you can go and have all your actions that you have right here available. As well as your brushes, like your heel brush tool, your brush tool, your blur tool, etc., sharpen, your color corrections or whatever and stuff like that. It's got all that stuff there. It's super, super easy, but it makes it so that you don't have to navigate all over Photoshop. So I find it really, really useful. Anyway, so what I did was up to vertical. Basically, all it does is it splits it, the same image into two windows so that I can work and have one as the full composition, and I can have one zoomed in, and I could see both at the same time in real time. So I'm not going to over edit a blown or a zoomed in aspect of the picture that I'm working on, and then lose sight of the whole composition itself. I can see both in real time, and I think that's really important. So, all right, so I'm going to go to the heel brush tool. I'm going to go to current layer. Diffusion is going to be 5. And what that's going to do is it's going to do really soft kind of transitions. So it'll be super fun. So I'm going to work on the texture layer first. And so kind of my rule of thumb is anything that's distracting, anything that the model, he or she, would not want on their face, like a blemish or a cat scratch or whatever, I'm going to remove. So anything that's temporary, like a temporary mark, a breaking of the skin, a dryness of the skin, a blemish, yeah, et cetera, I'm going to remove. Anything that is a permanent mark, unless the model specifically requests it, or I do because I need a specific look or whatever, and they do have inherent beauty marks or whatever that this hasn't happened to me, but I could see it happening. But that I wouldn't want in the image. That's a conversation I would actually have, or invite the model to have if it's something that doesn't work for them or they don't like. So outside of that, it's just very, very simply only temporary marks go away. Anything that is distracting goes away. Because at the end of the day, it's the image that matters, the full composition. But the devil is in the details, and you do need to pay attention to the details. For me, I like very clean images, and I'm getting better at that. I'm still new to it, but I will force myself to get to a degree of refinement to where I can deliver a very high quality image. And that's kind of on period. So the best way to do that is to practice and practice a lot, but also work on a lot of different types of images, a lot of different types of flesh tones, a lot of different types of people, lighting situations, etc. So this music is getting on my nerves, so I'm going to change it up a little bit, or at least skip this particular track. Alright, cool. Particular track. Alright, cool. I wonder if I've been echoing. I wonder if I've been echoing. I have been. Let's see, what is not muted? Let's see, what is not muted? Twitch is not muted. Cool. Alright, so have somebody viewing. And if you have been, and I've been echoing the whole time, I do apologize, because that's got to be extremely annoying. Cool, that should be fixed. Let's go make sure that's fixed. So, cool. And I shall be right back.